It's the World Cup of World Cups, Episode 6, Sweden, 1958.
Sunday, the 8th of June, 1958. The largest lake freighter in the world, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, is launched. Gatwick Airport is getting ready to open, and Dan and Frank Carney of Wichita, Kansas have a crazy idea about selling pizzas from a hut. Meanwhile, in Solna, it's all kicking off. Welcome to Bizarro World, where up is down and black is white.
It's like when the substitute teacher walks out and everyone just goes, right, rumble.
And in my notes next to that, I've written, God damn, he's handsome.
I love how poetic the 58 World Cup is.
Everybody's happy. In your face psychiatry.
Before that, they just nude as the day they were born.
They're doing that magic thing again, and we're not sure how to react.
To do that? Right, you need to put some sort of warning on sentences like that.
Hej och välkommen till Valdskupener, avsnitt 6. Sverige 1958. Jag heter James Lagermott, och som alltid är Pal Wilde med mig. Hey Pal, hur mår du?
Lustig, which is the one word I know in Sweden.
What does that mean?
Funny.
Oh, you know.
I know tack, that's thank you. And then tusen tack is 1,000 thank yous.
That's too many thank yous, if you ask me. Anyway, as you've ascertained from our Swedish chat, we are Nordic for the first and only time. That's right. Sweden finally get their wish to host the World Cup that they never wanted. Before we get into it, though, the answer to the last teaser, I said 1954 was the first time that two teams had played each other twice in a single World Cup. How many more times has that happened, and when did it last happen? Well, as far as I can tell, it's happened 8 times since, including 3 times in the World Cup we're going to talk about today. But Paul, when was the last time two teams played each other twice in a World Cup?
I'm going to say 2006 based on nothing.
Yeah, if you don't get this, you're going to absolutely kick yourself. It was in 2018 when Belgium played England twice.
Oh, third place playoffs don't count.
They do count. They're a real game that people should take seriously. Also, final group games are a real thing and should be taken seriously as well. England. It's the 1958 World Cup. We've got 55 teams going into qualifying for 14 places, and there's a new rule.
What's the new rule?
Because up to this point, there have been a lot of teams qualifying without playing any qualifiers because other teams have pulled out. They say a team has to play at least one qualifying game to qualify for the World Cup.
I mean, that sounds like a lot of effort.
What? We have to play a game of football to be in the Football World Cup? This rule is going to have huge repercussions for one of the home nations.
It really is a topsy-turvy ride to the finals.
And the qualifying is now, I mean, it was sort of already doing this, but now it is officially split into continental zones.
Do Egypt finally get to be part of Africa?
Let's talk about what happens with Africa and Asia. FIFA say we're going to give one guaranteed space at this World Cup to either an African or an Asian team.
Generous, guys. Thanks.
And then everyone in Africa and Asia refused to play Israel. So by the old rules, that would be Israel qualifying for the World Cup by default. In Europe, for the first time, the home nations are now split up. We're not using the Home Nations Championship as a qualifying group anymore.
I imagine that was really good for Northern Ireland, who were like, great, we get to play different people.
Yes, Europe is split into 9 groups of 3, with the group winners going through. England knock out the Republic of Ireland and Denmark. Stanley Matthews, age 42, is still playing in the qualifiers, but he doesn't make the World Cup squad. Neither does Nat Lofthouse, who, incidentally, has just scored twice in the cup final. They're not taking, the good players. Why would you?
Well, that's an interesting one, because Nat Loftus, of course, had scored in a World Cup in the edition previously. So why take him?
He's only in form and got experience. Scotland knock out Spain and Switzerland. And Northern Ireland knock out Portugal and Italy. In bizarre circumstances, it all comes down to a game between Northern Ireland and Italy to take place in Northern Ireland. It's scheduled. Everyone has shown up, apart from the referee, who is stuck in fog and can't get there. So they decide to reschedule the game based on that. But because everyone else has turned up, they decide to play a friendly anyway. But it's one of the least friendly friendlies of all time, and the two teams just basically kick each other.
It's like when the substitute teacher walks out and everyone just goes, right, rumble.
It's not the real referee. And then when they reschedule it, Northern Ireland win. This is where it gets really weird.
Well, because that sounds like all four teams have qualified.
Well, that's three of them. Wales have been knocked out by Czechoslovakia at this point. But here's what happens next. So Israel have got to play someone in order to qualify for the World Cup. So they decide to put all the group runners-up from Europe into a draw and pull one of those out for Israel to play. I mean, why wouldn't you just pick the best second-place team? Surely they've earned the right.
No, we pick lots and we get a 14-year-old Italian boy to do it. That's the rules.
Poland are the best second-place team. They only don't qualify for the World Cup because they have to have a playoff with the Soviet Union. They finish level on points. But that's not how they do it. So they reach into the hat and they pull out...
Wales.
No, Belgium. And Belgium say, we don't want to do it.
Honestly, World Cup qualifying in the old days seems to be more teams trying not to go to the World Cup finals.
And they draw it again, and they draw out Wales, who are the 8th best second-place team out of 9. And now they decide, we're going to have the playoff with Israel. Wales are basically the Charlie Bucket of world football.
Going back for their second delicious Wonka bar.
Yeah. Oh, no, I found 50p in the street. I can have another one.
I think I'll buy just one more. For my Grandpa Joe.
Sure.
Wales play Israel, and they win, and have qualified for the World Cup, sort of technically as the representative of Africa and Asia.
Come now, boys. We're all African and Asian, aren't we?
Yeah, they've got the accents. This is the first and only time a country has qualified for the World Cup after having been eliminated in qualifying. So well done, Wales. We say hello to Northern Ireland, the Soviet Union, and Wales. We welcome back Argentina.
Oh, they finally got over their strop.
They have. They've stopped stropping and they've decided to join in for the first time in 24 years. Notable absentees, the most successful team at World Cups, Uruguay, who are, of course, semi-finalists in 1954. They do not qualify. They are knocked out by Paraguay, who are the paramilitary wing of Uruguay.
Here's the thing with Paraguay. So I went travelling in South America a few years ago for quite a long time, 6-7 months. And during that time in South America, I never met anyone from Paraguay. I never met anyone who was going to Paraguay. I never met anyone who'd been to Paraguay. I don't think Paraguay exists. I think they're it's the paranormal version of Uruguay, and it's just a big lake somewhere.
Are you suggesting that Paraguay exists purely for tax reasons, as a plaque on a wall somewhere?
I'm not saying it.
Also missing from 1958 are the second most successful team at World Cups, Italy, who, as we've mentioned, were knocked out by Northern Ireland. In fact, the only team at this World Cup who've won a World Cup are West Germany. Serious face now, because there are two global events that overshadow this World Cup. First of all, the 1956 Hungarian Revolution. It broke up the brilliant Hungarian team of 54, the magical Magyars. Puskás and Kocsis are now in exile in Spain, so they are no longer part of the Hungarian squad. And the other event that massively overshadows the 1958 World Cup is the Munich Air Disaster.
Yes. Now, of course, there were players who were supposed to be playing for England on that.
Tommy Taylor was the top scorer in all of the World Cup qualifying for 1958. He scored 8 goals, including 2 hat-tricks, and he died in the Munich Air Disaster. He would have definitely gone to the World Cup, as would have Roger Byrne and Duncan Edwards as well.
Yeah.
Possibly also David Pegg, who died. Bobby Charlton famously was on the plane and survived, but he was 20, I think, at the time. So he's obviously really shaken up by it. And Jackie Blanchflower of Northern Ireland is on the flight. He's severely injured in the crash. He never plays again, and he would have played in the World Cup. In fact, the qualifier between Wales and Israel, the second leg, happens the day before the Munich Air Disaster. Jimmy Murphy, the manager of Wales, is also Matt Busby's assistant. But because he was managing Wales, it meant he was never on the plane. And Matt Busby was going to be the manager of Scotland during this World Cup. he withdrew. I mean, he didn't manage Manchester United at the end of that campaign either. Jimmy Murphy took over.
You can't imagine why as well. You can just be that is so traumatic. I don't think I want to do this anymore.
So, format-wise, a little bit more...
sensible?
Yeah, a little bit more sanity prevailing in this format. It's 4 groups of 4 playing round robin. The top 2 go to the quarterfinals. If the second and third place teams finish level on points, there's a playoff. And if that's a draw, they will be divided by goal average, which is not goal difference. Goal average is where you divide how many goals you've scored by how many goals you've let in. Now, can you see the obvious flaw in goal average?
Is it going to be a lot of the things are the same?
I mean, there will be that, yeah. Well,
is it going to mean in proper fractions? Because I always struggled with those.
I mean, yes, there will be. But look, imagine your team has scored 4 and conceded 2. What's your goal average?
2.
Okay. Imagine your team has scored 3 and conceded 1. What's your goal average?
3.
All right. So that's saying that a 3-1 is better than a 4-2.
Yes.
It encourages defensive play.
I see. Yes.
Is not good. But it's a step up from drawing lots for everything.
This poor Italian boy, no longer needed.
He hasn't seen daylight in 4 years.
He's just been kept in a trunk at FIFA HQ. Being fed Gruyere through a little slat.
Anyway, first...
Hey!
This is a huge first. Geographical seedings. When they do the draw...
Whoever's most north. It's held in Sweden, it's whoever can do best at downhill bobsleighing.
No, it's just because they usually just took the 4 best teams and then everyone else random. This time they've split it up into 4 geographical areas, and it's all 4 geographical areas of the world in the World Cup. Obviously, you've got the Americas.
Yep.
You've got Western
North
Europe.
and South America, yep.
Yeah, all as one, the Americas. You've got Western Europe.
Yep.
You've got Eastern Europe.
Yep.
And you've got the British Isles.
I mean, I thought you were going to say you've got Africa and Asia, who, of course, represented by Wales.
No, that has been subsumed into the British Isles geographical seeding group. So there you go. All 4 regions of the world there represented. And they're off. Okay, we've got
the first time that all 4 home nations played?
The first and only time. So, yes, ping. First and only time the 4 home nations qualify for the same World Cup. There's a standalone opening game. It's in Group 3, and it's the hosts Sweden against Mexico.
Ooh, spicy.
Well, you say that, but at this point, Mexico have still lost every game they've played at a World Cup.
I can't get out of my head that Mexico are a good side, and it is based on one game in 1998. It's Blanco doing the bunny hop, which might have been 2002. But in my head, Mexico are decent. And I know that doesn't kick in for a long time.
Mexico had lost 4-0 to Brazil in the opener of 1950. But I'm delighted to report that this time round they go one better and lose 3-0.
Yay! They'll be dancing on the streets of Chihuahua.
Well, it's funny you should say that. We're going to find out just how low the bar is for Mexico in a moment. But I will say that Agni Simonson's second goal and Sweden's third would be the last goal in a standalone opening game for 24 years. So enjoy that one, kids. Sweden have decided to allow their Italian-based players to be in the squad. That's very big of them because they are their best players.
Because this would have been the point where the Italians paid money to watch good players play, whereas I imagine the Swedish were paying them in
herring.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Really strong aniseed drinks that they make in a shed.
Captain Niels Lidholm, Kurt Hamrin, Leonard Scotland, Arnie Selmerson and Bengt Gustafsson are all part of the squad.
I mean, half of those sound like action heroes. Kurt Hamrin, ripped, he's got a vest, he's got a bandana sort of around the head.
I think we all know what kind of films Kurt Hamrin is going to be in. They are coached by George Rayner, who is from Barnsley. Before he managed Sweden, he was the manager of Aldershot Reserves. As far as I can tell, I'm pretty sure this is true. He is the only manager in football history to have managed both Juventus and Skegness Town.
They should have a derby. They should have a friendly every year. What's his name?
George Rayner.
The George Rayner trophy, because I reckon that probably Juventus is under nines could beat Skegness Town.
I'd pay to watch that game. Juventus under nines against Skegness Town, who are going to be a bunch of hard non-league players. It's going to be carnage, Paul. So that group's underway. The other members of that group are Hungary and Wales. They play in Sandviken in Sweden. And what's significant about that game, Paul?
Hungary and Wales.
It's in Sandviken. That's the key bit.
Oh. It's the first time that Sandviken has been ever mentioned ever.
Well, you've already kind of mentioned this about Sweden, about its unique geographical.
Oh, this is the first time it was played above the Arctic Circle or something.
Well, it's not quite that. But
it's the first time it's ever played in snow in June.
It's just the most northern World Cup finals game ever.
Oh, nice.
Which means it's just really friendly. Also, in this game, I'm pretty sure this is true. Bosic, who plays for Hungary and scores their goal, is an MP.
Oh, excellent work.
At the time.
Yes.
He doesn't go on to be an MP. He's actually an MP while he's at the World Cup playing for Hungary. Wales equalise. That game ends in a draw.
Who scores for Wales?
John Charles gets the equaliser.
So John Charles, for those of you who are not aware, is like maybe Wales' best ever player. He goes on to play for Juventus, doesn't he?
Yes. In fact, he transfers during this World Cup.
He's mad. He was playing up front and then during his career shifted back to centre-back and was equally good at both.
It's a move that Harry Kane is doing during games at the moment. Just dropping deeper and deeper.
To be fair, if you saw Harry Maguire at centre-back, you'd be like, someone needs to give him a hand there.
Eventually, Harry Kane's going to end up in the away end. Anyway, Wales draw all of their games in the group. And what does that mean, Paul?
It means they're knocked out because they've got goal average of nothing.
No, it means that when they play Mexico, what happens?
They have to have a playoff?
No, Mexico...
Score a goal!
Oh, they've scored goals, Paul. It's their first non-defeat.
Oh.
Ivor Allchurch scores for Wales in the first half. Jamie Belmonte says yes. Gets the equaliser in the last minute of the game, which means Mexico get a point. They get a draw, right? They've lost 9 in a row. No team has lost 9 consecutive World Cup games since. That is the record.
I'm not surprised. It's very difficult to do.
So Jamie Belmont is known as El Orio de Solna, the hero of Solna, for scoring the equaliser. They build a statue of him. Irapuato in Mexico, there is a statue of the guy who got the last minute equaliser, which meant Mexico didn't lose 10 games in a row.
Did they qualify from that group?
Who?
Mexico.
Well, they go on to play Hungary and they lose 4-0.
So there's a statue of a man who got them a draw in a group game that they didn't get out the groups.
Correct.
Listen to that, people at home, and think about all of the achievements that you've made. They'll put a statue up like almost did the washing up. Yeah, go on, have a statue.
Hungary beat Mexico, but Hungary lose to Sweden, which means that even though Hungary have got a better goal difference and a better goal average, because they're level on points, because it's 2 points for a win, Hungary have to play Wales in a playoff.
Having already played them once, they play them again.
Wales, once again, Charlie bucketing it, would have gone out on goal difference, would have gone out on goal average. If it was 3 points for a win, they would have gone out. But no, they're getting a playoff with Hungary only 2 days after the last group games. So it comes around really quick. And,
lactic acid just coursing through everyone's veins.
And crucially for Hungary, it happens the day after Imre Nagy, the leader of the 1956 uprising, is executed.
As gamesmanship goes, that is an awful thing of the Wales team to do.
It wasn't the Wales team who killed him, no. It was the communist government in Hungary. So they might have been thinking about that. Tiki scores for Hungary, his 4th goal of the World Cup.
So to celebrate him, they create a selection of lovely cocktails, putting loads of bits of pineapple skewers in.
Ivor Allchurch and Terry Medwin score for Wales, which means Wales win. Wales are going to pay for this jamminess, by the way, with 64 years of hurt.
They literally used up all of their luck. Monkey's paw working overtime.
It's not all good luck, though. John Charles is injured in the game with Hungary and is out of the World Cup. Also, there are only 2,823 in the crowd for this game. There are 3 playoffs in this World Cup, and they're all really, really poorly attended. And that's probably the reason why FIFA stopped having playoffs after this World Cup.
Also, because it is just a bit mad.
Keep playing, players. Keep playing for our entertainment. I'm going to tell you a bit about one of the Mexican defenders now, and this might not make the edit. It's a bit weird, and also I can't really pronounce the word. So it's Jose Villegas is the defender, plays for Mexico. He's nicknamed Jamaican. Not Jamaican. It's got nothing to do with Jamaica, as far as I can tell. And as it's Mexican, I suppose it's Jamaican, and it means someone who cries a lot. Apparently, in the warm-up to the World Cup in Sweden, when Mexico were in Portugal, he sneaked out of dinner and they couldn't find him. So they're looking around and they find him in the hotel garden, sitting under a tree, hugging his legs, and I quote, looking at the stars with melancholy.
Someone says, yes, you little poet, you little philosopher's soul.
Someone says, have you had your dinner and is everything okay? And he says, how can I eat dinner if it was prepared for me by a bunch of presumptuous people?
That's not where I thought that sentence was going.
It's potentially lost a lot in the translation there. All I want are my chalupas, not the trash that's not even Mexican. Right, that's what he said.
Oh, I love this. This is staying in the edit. This is at 100% staying in the edit.
As far as I can tell, the story is here that he didn't like foreign food. So he went and sulked in the garden.
Just crying in the garden because he can't have egg and chips on holiday.
Yeah. But apparently, ever since, the phenomenon of Mexicans missing Mexico when they're out of the country is known as the Jamaican syndrome.
That is too funny. Also, it's Portugal. It's not like that he's going to 1950s Scotland and we give him mince and tatties. He's getting, there'll be some flavour in that. He snuck out, sat under a tree, looked at the stars, and dreamt about a rap.
As far as I'm aware, there's no statue of him.
I think they should put the statue of him in the shade of the statue of the guy who scored one goal. And then
everyone gets a statue in Mexico.
And you go and you leave him a little plate of chalupas as a sacrifice for when you're going on holiday, so that they will have Mexican food while you're going. Hello, I'm Paul Savage. As well as being the co-host of the World Cup of World Cups, I am a stand-up comedian. I'm doing a show called Well Groomed at the Canonsgate during the month of August, from the 6th to the 28th, not the 17th, at 4:30 every day. A fun, silly show about trauma. And I am also a cartoonist. I have a book called But Doctor. I'm a collection of comic strips by Paul Savage, and it is available through my website, savagecomic.com, along with mugs, stickers, postcards, and other fun stuff. Please check those out.
On to football. Let's go to Group 1, which features the holders, West Germany, former finalist Czechoslovakia, former finalist and current Copa America holders Argentina. Pretty formidable, this group so far.
Yeah.
And Northern Ireland.
So that luck that the Welsh were having, I think it was probably a system of weights and balances where they went, one of the home nation team gets all of the luck and one of it gets none.
But Northern Ireland have a secret weapon. They have an Aston Villa player in their squad.
Steve Staunton's granddad.
Peter McParland, who is still alive, by the way, still with us at the time of recording. In this group, Argentina play West Germany. Argentina score after 3 minutes, but lose 3-1. Helmut Rahn,
who's also being in those films with Kurt
Hamrin. Helmut Rahn, who'd scored the winner in the 1954 World Cup final, he's still playing. He's put on some timber. He apparently is very fond of a drink. And he scores 2.
I imagine he didn't have to buy one for the last 4 years. No. Just sort of, Helmut Rahn, our greatest ever World Cup player who won us the World Cup. What are you having? And he'd go, literally anything. Can I have a new Daimler? And they went, yeah.
I'll have a Stein, please. He scores 2 here, and they're both absolute corkers.
Yes, they are. They are lovely goals. Especially the third. Whoa.
West Germany are behind in all 3 of their games, but they finish the group unbeaten. They draw their other 2. Schaefer scores against the Czechs by barging the goalkeeper over the line.
Which was still sort of allowed.
And then the other teams all beat each other. So Northern Ireland beat Czechoslovakia 1-0. Peter McParland scores after 4 minutes against Argentina, but Argentina win that 3-1.
Can we have a ding for the first time an Aston Villa player does something useful, but eventually ends up losing?
At a World Cup.
At a World Cup.
The Czechs beat Argentina 6-1.
Oh.
So West Germany are through as the group winners. Argentina are out because they lost to Germany, and Northern Ireland and Czechoslovakia are level on points. So once again, the Czechs have got a goal difference of +4. Northern Ireland have a goal difference of -1, but they play off. And in the playoff, Peter McParland of Aston Villa scores his 4th and 5th goals of the World Cup so far, because he got 2 against Germany as well, and Northern Ireland go through.
Why is there not a statue of him outside Villa Park?
I'm pretty sure that is the most goals any Villa player has scored at a World Cup. Sorry for the Villa bias in this. What are you going to do? And this is a first. He's the first British team to win 2 matches at a World Cup.
Wow.
Albeit both against the same team. It's a shame because the Czechs were really good. And, they tanked Argentina 6-1. Zdenek Zikan had scored 4 goals in 3 games. And their midfielder, Titus Bubenik, made his debut against Northern Ireland and also sounds like a Carry On character.
Carry On Romans, Titus Bubenik.
Argentina were also a good team, and they're out. Managed by Stabile, remember him from 1930, the top scorer. Their goalkeeper, Amadeo Carrizo, was voted the best South American goalkeeper of the 20th century, and he was the first Argentinian goalkeeper to wear gloves. The backup goalkeeper, Julio Musi Messi, is nicknamed El Arquero Canto.
Oh, the singing
goalkeeper. And in my notes next to that, I've written, God damn, he's handsome. He looks like a matinee idol.
What is his name?
Julio Musi Messi.
Oh, you're not wrong. That's a very certain flavour. Little thin moustache across the top of a lip, little bum chin, and then he's just coming in and just been like, ladies. Julio Musi Messi does the thing where he kisses your hand.
He looks like a cross between Gene Kelly and Errol Flynn.
You don't see faces like that anymore.
The Argentinian squad also features Pedro de Laca, the defender, who's known as Don Pedro del Area.
He can only defend in the area.
Yeah.
He's the Don of the area. As soon as he's outside the 18-yard box, goes to pieces.
Winger Oresta Corbata, known as El Dueño de la Rea, the chairman of the sideline.
I mean, that sounds like somebody just being like a backseat driver, who is the chairman of the sidelines, just sits there telling us what we think we should do.
Probably be best not to put him in the driving seat because he was known to have played while drunk. He once said to a teammate, don't pass me the ball because I can't see it.
I think what we should do, because there is quite a few stories of drunkenness from players, and so over the course of this show, we shall build our drunk 11 and our teetotal 11, and we'll see who would have won.
Well, it depends what time of day they're playing. If it's early in the morning or late at night, it's the sober players. If it's after one drink, it's the drunks.
Oh, yeah. It's like playing pool. You've got to get the right level of drunk.
Just hit that sweet spot. Corbata also once said, do you know why my rivals could not take the ball away from me?
Because you were pissed.
No.
Or is it that the different one?
Because she didn't want to abandon me. Other things were taken from me, but not the ball.
I love how poetic the 58 World Cup is. You've got people in romantic things with the ball, and then you've got people looking at the stars and wishing that they were a plate of food.
Right, Group 2. I like Group 2 a lot. There are 31 goals in Group 2. It's France, it's Paraguay, who've knocked out Uruguay and don't exist, Scotland and Yugoslavia. Paraguay go 3-2 up against France early in the second half.
What?
But France come back to win 7-3.
That's almost a bit of a piss take.
Just Fontaine scores a hat-trick, and he's only in the side because another player's injured.
Was that player called Amazing Fontaine? And then they were like, he's not available. Oh, just Fontaine.
Yeah, he's like Just Juice. P. Anthony scores an amazing chip, and Raymond Copper, the captain of France, scores with his knee. And by the looks of things, not by accident. He does it on purpose, and it's really good.
Can we have a little ding for that? The first time a knee has been involved in a goal.
It's the first time we know of that someone has intentionally scored with their knee. There may have been others. There's lots of footage missing. Yugoslavia take an early lead against Scotland before Jimmy Murray equalises, which is the first time a Scotsman has scored at a World Cup. And it's the only World Cup goal scored by a Hearts player.
Statue outside of Tynecastle.
Jackie Moody has a goal disallowed, and Bobby Collins gets hit in the mouth during the game.
With a ball or with a fist?
With a fist, I think. It finishes 1-1, but then they go and lose to Paraguay 3-2. Tommy Younger, who's the captain and goalkeeper, he makes a couple of mistakes, and he never plays international football again after that. Fontaine scores another 2 for France, but they lose 3-2 to Yugoslavia, and then Yugoslavia draw 3-3 with Paraguay, who, despite scoring 9 goals and 3 in every game, are out.
What a time just to be able to go, I think if we score 3 goals a game, we should be... what?
No. Their squad features Jose Parody, which sounds like a comedy character based on Jose Mourinho that someone on YouTube will have done. And Florencio Amarilla, who scores 2 goals here at the World Cup. After the World Cup, he moves to Spain and becomes a movie extra. He is in the films Patton, 100 Rifles, and Conan the Barbarian.
I was not expecting that.
In the final game, Scotland play France. Scotland need to win, and they miss a penalty and lose 2-1. The winner scored by Just Fontaine, who's now up to 6. The Scotland squad is being managed by caretaker Dawson Walker, who's standing in for Matt Busby.
That's a very American name, that. Dawson Walker, attorney at law. Tuesday nights on NBC.
It also features Harry Haddock, who's a cartoon fish. Eddie Turnbull, who later gets awarded a posthumous Arctic Star medal because in World War II he was on the HMS Bulldog, the HMS Alnwick Castle, and HMS Plover. They had Dave Mackay in the team, who George Best would say he was the best opponent he ever faced. They had Archie Robertson, who would go on to be Ali McCoist's science teacher. It also featured Tommy Docherty at right half, nicknamed the Doc, of course. After playing, he would go on to manage 13 teams and, briefly, Scotland. He invented Chelsea's blue shorts.
Before that, they just nude as the day they were born.
He was the manager of QPR for 29 days. He'd later manage QPR again, then be sacked again, and then be reinstated 9 days later, then be sacked 5 months after that.
At some point, you have to just go, is this workplace a happy place?
He managed Man United. He got them relegated, but then promoted and to 2 cup finals, winning 1, losing 1. Then he had an affair with the physio's wife, so was sacked.
But then stayed married to the physio's wife for another 40 years. So... a very complicated man, Tommy Docherty. None of this was aware of at the 58 World Cup. No one was sitting there just going, by the way, in about 20 years' time, you're going to have an affair with a physio's wife.
And you'll have a stormy affair with QPR as well. Into Group 4, which features Austria, Brazil, the reigning Olympic champions, the Soviet Union, and England. England come from behind twice to draw with the Soviets. According to Vittorio Pozzo, the old Italy manager who's watching this game, Derek the Tank Kevin scores his goal with the outside of his head.
I would love to see someone score with the inside of their head.
With psychic powers like Professor Xavier. Basically, what happens is the ball hits his head and goes in. I don't think he knows much about it. The second goal is a penalty. Lev Yashin is so incensed by the giving of the penalty that he grabs the referee by the arm and throws his hat at him. So Tom Finney, who'd already had a goal disallowed, he scores the penalty. Tom Finney, a good player who'd somehow managed to end up in the England squad. But then he gets injured and he's out of the rest of the World Cup, which I imagine the FA were delighted about. Brazil play Austria, beat them 3-0. A precocious teenager scores twice.
Ugh, precocious teens, they're the worst.
Yeah, that's right. I'm talking, of course, about Jose Altofeni.
How old was Altofeni at this World Cup?
He was 19.
Practically an old man by then.
Yeah, he's nicknamed Mazzola after Valentina Mazzola, an Italian footballer who had died in the 1949 Torino air disaster. He loved Italy, basically, so much that he moved there and then switched allegiance to Italy in time for the 1962 World Cup. And you will have heard Jose Altofeni's voice.
Will I?
Yes, because he went on to be an Italian commentator. Very much the Italian Brian Moore.
I've got a funny feeling of where this is going, and I already love it.
What's your guess?
Is that he is the man who screams Golazzo at the start of Football Italia?
That is correct, he is.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes.
Bum, 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 bum. Di-di-di-di-di.
He invented shouting Golazzo. That was like his catchphrase. He's still alive, by the way. He's 83 now.
I might send him a postcard to say thanks.
Austria then lose 2-0 to the Soviets. Yashin saves a penalty during the game. So Austria are basically out at this point. And then, huge first.
Exciting times.
It's Brazil against England, which is a first. But also, crucially, what haven't we had yet in any World Cup?
The arrival of... Is that player?
No. I know what you're thinking. It's not that. It leads to that because this is the first 0-0 draw at a World Cup.
Are you kidding me?
No.
After how many games? That's
about 110, 120, something like that.
No way.
This is the first 0-0, and it's Brazil against England. And it's also the first time Brazil failed to score in a World Cup game.
Oh, there should be a plaque of that outside the Soho Square. Just
all thanks to Bill Slater, who marks Didi out of the game. Didi is like the Brazilian playmaker and also one of the only Ramones to play at the World Cup. Bill Slater, who also played second 11 for Warwickshire. Brazil have not scored. This is a huge deal. There have got to be changes. And there are a couple of squad players they're thinking of bringing in. And they're called Pele and Garincha.
As depths of squad go, where you can chuck on, who should we chuck on? Should we chuck one or two of them on, where you've got possibly the greatest player of all time and Pele to be able to throw on? That is insane.
But Brazil had a team psychiatrist who said that Pele was too infantile, bearing in mind he's 17 here, and that Garincha was unsophisticated, which, having read up on Garincha, is a very kind way to describe what he was.
Garincha, he's somehow been forgotten, despite the fact he's amazing. He was from like the backwoods, deep country, came from quite a broken home, had rickets as a child, which is why he was sort of bandy-legged, but just has utter control of the ball. Like, ridiculous.
We've got some examples coming up later on of unsophisticated things that Garincha does, as well as, of course, of all the brilliant football that he played. Anyway, Brazil decide to hell with Freud and his lot, and they pick Pele and Garincha, and Brazil beat the USSR 2-0. They're back scoring goals again. Everybody's happy. In your face psychiatry.
There is a bit in that game where Garincha is literally holding a ball away from 5 players, where they're all trying to get the ball from him, and he's just like, nope. And there we are, player pass through. It's lovely.
This means that England just need to beat Austria, who are already out, to go through. That's all they need to do. Just beat Austria. Twice England come from behind, and at 2-2, Bobby Robson has a goal disallowed for handball. Did you know that happened?
No.
Knowing what we know,
yeah,
there's a delicious poetry to that, isn't there? The Austrian team features Ernst Happel, who would go on to manage the Netherlands in 1978, and he's one of only 6 men to have won top-flight domestic leagues in 4 countries. He's the first of 5 managers to win the European Cup with 2 clubs, Feyenoord and Hamburg. The stadium in Vienna is named after him, and when he was a kid, he was forced to be in the Hitler Youth, but he was kicked out for not singing. He never married. Read into that what you will. But Ernst Happel there was in defence for Austria, and their striker, Walter Schläger, would go on to be a qualified vet. All of this means that there's going to be a playoff between the Soviet Union and England, although the Soviet Union would have gone through if it had been 3 points for a win.
Their goal difference?
They both finished goals for, goals against 4. But basically, England have drawn every game. They've done a Wales, and they're into the playoff. But unlike Wales, they don't get through the playoff. England lose 1-0. Peter Brabrook hits the post twice and has a goal disallowed.
I know it happened 26 years before, but you just put it in the... God!
And this is why no people of our generation have heard of Peter Brarbrook. He goes on to work.
2 of those, there would be statues of him. There would be streets named after him.
If he was Mexican,
he'd be crying outside wanting liver and onions.
He'd later go on to work for West Ham and help develop Frank Lampard, Joe Cole and Michael Carrick. So the England squad featured chopper Eddie Clamp at right half. He once said to a referee, "That's the trouble with you referees. You don't care which side wins."
I like this man.
Bobby Robson, as I mentioned, more about him later. And Alan Accourt, who sounds like one of Robin Hood's merry men.
He was one of Liverpool's top scorers, but he did most of it in the second division.
And he was also one of the few footballers who could play a lute. Here comes Alan Accourt with Tales of Robin Hood. So England are out, along with Scotland, of course, as we head into the quarterfinals.
And Wales and Northern Ireland are through.
They're still there.
What a thing that wouldn't be expected.
Yeah. Welcome to Bizarro World, where up is down and black is white. So in the quarterfinals, Sweden beat the Soviets 2-0. West Germany beat Yugoslavia 1-0. The Yugoslavian squad features defender Tomislav Crnkovic, who, according to his Wikipedia entry, was married at least 5 times.
You dirty dog.
Milos Milutinovic, known as the Blonde Buzzer.
Well, like that.
Which is, I think, a product you can buy in a plain brown package. He would later manage Yugoslavia, but his brother Bora would manage 5 different countries at 5 consecutive World Cups. We're going to be talking about him a lot later.
Bora Milutinovic has one of my favourite quotes of all times.
Save it for when he's in it. It's a tease. It's a tease. People listening.
Look forward to our USA 94 one. I will tell you what my favourite Bora Milutinovic quote is.
The Soviets, who are now out as well, feature Sergei Salnikov, who was once transferred from Zenit to Dynamo Moscow in order to get his stepfather out of a labour camp.
As transfer fees go,
we'll release your stepdad from prison.
As agreed, you will get a 4-year contract, £75 million signing bonus, and here is your stepfather, alive and well.
This is so random and weird. You're not going to be able to see where this sentence is going.
I mean, I didn't see where the last one went, so if it's weirder than the last sentence, I'm so intrigued to see where this is going.
Sergei Salnikov, the Soviet striker at the 1958 World Cup, is the grandfather of Stefanos Tsitsipas, the Greek tennis player currently ranked number 4 in the world. So, Brazil are playing Wales. This is a really well-known game in the history of Welsh football because Wales do, I mean, it sounds patronising, but they do really well here against a brilliant Brazil team who haven't conceded a goal yet, by the way. I should say, Brazil are the first team to not concede a goal in the group stage of a World Cup.
The Wales team that have gone to this game, we should say what a mad team it is. One of the players, and I can't find who it is, doesn't go because he's on a coach and they're singing songs. He starts singing a pop song, and one of the Wales religious leader from the FAW bans him for singing pop songs.
It's a song from Guys and Dolls.
Yeah, it's a song. It's not even a pop song. It's a song from the musicals. He sings a song from Guys and Dolls. They also take to the World Cup, they've only got a certain amount of seats on the plane, and they take quite a lot of wives of committee members rather than a full squad. And John Charles, of course, is injured for this game, and he sits behind as just cross after cross goes into the Brazil box, going, I'd have got that. Yeah, I'd have got that one too.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd have got on the end of that one.
His brother Mel Charles is playing, though. He apparently has got Pele's shirt from that game.
Do you know what actually happens to that shirt?
No.
It goes home to Wales with him. At some point in the 60s, Mel Charles sends his son to school with Pele's shirt for show and tell. It never comes home. So somewhere in the Welsh Valleys, somebody has Pele's shirt that just got lost Yeah, but like if it wasn't lost, you'd be like, all right, I'll take the reward money.
It would have been sold by now.
It's not like when they stole the World Cup, melt it down for the gold. You can't melt down a shirt. But yeah, somewhere out there, Pele's shirt exists or doesn't. Like, it may be turned into rags by a cleaning lady some point in the 70s.
So John and his brother Mel, Ivor Allchurch, the golden boy of Welsh football, his brother Len Allchurch is also in the squad. So if they had a really good player, what they do is they get their brother in as well. Sort of help.
Steve Pele on the other side.
Yeah.
I know that Pele's name wasn't Pele. His name is Ezan Orantes de Nascimento. If I said Steve Orantes de Nascimento, you wouldn't have got it. Moving on.
Also, they had Colin Baker, who was in the squad, who'd gone, of course, to be Doctor Who, which is slightly poetic because Jimmy Murphy, who is the coach that we've already mentioned, he'd be played by David Tennant in a drama about the Munich Air Disaster. Their captain, Dave Bowen, was the summariser for the ITV coverage of the 1966 World Cup final that no one watched because everyone was watching Kenneth Wolstenholme. He would effectively, as Wales manager, stop England from qualifying for the 1974 World Cup. There was Ken Leake, which is, got to be the most Welsh name ever. I mean, Leake, probably, but Ken is close.
Yeah, that sounds like a parody character.
Keith Daffodil. Ken Leake is the grandfather of Carl Darlow, the Newcastle United goalkeeper. Way more believable than a Greek tennis player. And they had Roy Vernon, who would apparently smoke fags in the tunnel. So,
I mean, if you're going to put somebody off, like, you can give them a stare or you can just smoke a fag at them. I think you don't want to go in on some of these challenges.
Brazil famously win this game 1-0, Pele scoring and becoming the youngest goal scorer in World Cup history, a record which still stands to this day. It is a lovely bit of skill, but the shot is deflected.
It is cruel how good Wales are in this game and how they don't get anything from it.
But Altofeni, who we mentioned earlier, Mazzolo, he has an overhead kick goal disallowed for no apparent reason. I think it was just one of those things of, they're doing that magic thing again, and we're not sure how to react.
Is he allowed to do that?
That's against the laws of physics. We're disallowing it. Hey, have you ever played a board game? You have? Then you'll love my book, 101 Board Games to Play Before You Die. I look at the board games that we've loved, hated and thrown across the room in a fit of rage. I'll tell you which classic games are not worth the time and emotional torment, and which games you should be playing instead, as well as giving you advice on how to make your dinner parties more tolerable and how to pimp your Scrabble. The perfect gift for your nerdy friend, it's available from 101boardgames.com. That's 101boardgames.com. So Wales are out, all British hopes down to Northern Ireland, who prepare for their quarter-final with France by spending 12 hours on a coach.
There was a point in my comedy career where I just went, I'm never doing the megabus. I can't imagine a worse way to get ready for football than being 12 hours on a coach.
I mean, Sweden's not even that big. Where were they going? They're just driving around.
Took a day trip out to Finland.
Their sub-goalkeeper is supposed to start, but is injured, so they have to get Harry Gregg to play. Harry Gregg, who's using a walking stick to get around the hotel. That is because he was in the Munich air crash. He's known as the hero of Munich. He pulled Matt Busby, Bobby Charlton, Dennis Weiler and Jackie Blanchflower from the burning plane, as well as the pregnant wife of a Yugoslav diplomat and her 2-year-old.
That's so impressive, and it's also weird that is the first time I've heard his name.
Yeah, Harry Gregg, Northern Irish Manchester United goalkeeper.
Should be much better known.
He goes on to be voted goalkeeper of the tournament for this World Cup, and you think some of that is probably to do with Munich. Yeah, the goalkeeper who couldn't play is called Norman Upritchard, or possibly Norman U. Pritchard. Norman Upritchard! They've got a hobbled goalkeeper. Also, Tommy Casey, their forward, has a leg wound that reopens during the game.
Right, you need to put some sort of warning on sentences like that. Just brace yourself, Paul. Wounds opening up all over the place.
Despite that, they nearly hold out until half-time against what is frankly the best French team yet, but they lose 4-0.
A difficult second half, that.
Just Fontaine scores another brace, bringing his total to 8. Northern Ireland are managed by Pete Doherty, who would go on to form the Libertines. He smoked a pipe, as all managers should, and when he was working as a scout for Liverpool, found Kevin Keegan.
There is a mad fact about Kevin Keegan. So Kevin Keegan was born in his auntie's house.
Do you want to save this for 1982 when Kevin Keegan shows up?
Yeah, sure.
Let's tease ahead to that.
Yeah. Okay, there's a mad fact about the birth of Kevin Keegan that we will introduce in the 1982 World Cup.
The Northern Irish team is full of absolute legends. There is the striker Fay Coyle, who is, of course, something that homeopaths sell. There's Peter McParland, already mentioned, who, as well as being a Villa legend and scoring 5 goals in this World Cup, is the first player to score in a League Cup and FA Cup final.
I mean, surely, therefore, he's also the first player to score in a League Cup, FA Cup, and a World Cup.
Yeah, must be. There's Billy Bingham. I mean, we're recording this like a week after he passed away, but Billy Bingham is in the squad. He goes on to manage Northern Ireland in 82 and 86. Derek Dougan, the centre forward. There's so much about Derek Dougan. I'm going to give you the highlights.
Please do.
He stood in East Belfast at the 1997 general election for the former captain of the Northern Irish football team party.
Derek Dougan, how would I know you? You're the former Northern Ireland captain of the football team. What are your policies? I was the former captain of the Northern Ireland football team.
He got 541 votes. He was cleared on counts of aggravated burglary and assaulting a Vietnam War veteran with a pool cue.
Where? Were the Vietnam veterans coming back to East Belfast?
I don't know.
You're raising more questions than you're answering, Dougan.
He was on Question Time.
What, battering Dimbleby with a pool cue?
No, he was on Question Time in 2006, representing UKIP.
The man's an enigma.
He died not long after that, and among the speakers at his funeral was Nick Owen from, TVAM.
I've met Nick Owen twice. Once he came into a Fiat dealership I worked at, where I was a terrible car salesman. But before that, I took my friend Nick Owen to his book signing so he could go, "Hello, Nick Owen. This is Nick Owen." And he went, "Cool. Do you want me to write that on the inside of a book?" And he went, "No." And his book is 17 quid. We're all students. We just did this for a laugh. And his book is called In the Time of Nick.
Oh, very good. Just a little clarification, because I know sometimes people listen to podcasts while they're doing other stuff. Nick Owen was not in the Northern Irish World Cup squad in 1958. We're just talking about him.
We did get distracted, soz.
Also in the squad, Danny Blanchflower, one of the greats.
Yeah, a massive legend at Spurs still.
Once said, "The great fallacy is that the game is first and last about winning. It is nothing of the kind. The game is about glory. It is about doing things in style and with a flourish, about going out and beating the lot, not waiting for them to die of boredom."
Nice. Also, Danny Blanchflower, what's his first name?
Danny?
Yeah, you'd imagine. His name is Robert, and his middle name is Dennis. It should be Denny Blanchflower. Mind you, if you say that in a Northern Irish accent, maybe you get there.
One of many signatories in a letter to the Times in 1958 opposing the policy of apartheid. And the thing that makes him an...
Sorry, is that the good one? He was against apartheid.
He was against apartheid, yes.
Good,
So you're just trying to work out whether that was good or bad.
I'm just checking.
And the thing that makes him an absolute legend in my eyes is that he was the first person to turn down the invitation to appear on This Is Your Life.
Oh, really?
Yes. Eamon Andrews comes up to him with the red book and he just walks off. He goes, "No, I consider this programme to be an invasion of privacy," and just leaves.
All of his mates sat backstage going, "That's
I'm not going to get to tell my story now."
And you'll recognise this voice. I won't!
The Northern Irish team also included Dick Keith, who died aged just 33 in 1967 when an automatic garage door collapsed on him.
Oh, I mean, there's no good ways to go, but that's amongst the worst.
It is the most Spinal Tap death yet. Into the semi-finals. And we've got a matchup between the hosts and the holders. It's Sweden versus West Germany. Here's a weird quirk of fate. Fritz Walter of West Germany, who's still playing, and Gunnar Gren of Sweden were both born on exactly the same day. And that day was Halloween 1920.
Spookiest of all the decades.
West Germany take the lead, and then Uwe Seeler misses a sitter before Sweden equalise. Then Erik Juskowiak is sent off for a foul on the aforementioned Kurt Hamrin. 24 years later, Juskowiak would drive to Gothenburg to apologise. And he was the first German to be sent off at a World Cup.
He fouled so badly he got sent off, and then 24 years later, he went to apologise for it. Wow.
To be fair to Erik Juskowiak, he had survived being shot in the head in World War II.
Okay, so that's why he was like with the outside of his head.
Maybe.
It's because there was people with open head wounds just playing football.
The game's 1-1 heading into the last 10 minutes, and then Sweden score twice and win 3-1. So Sweden are through to their first World Cup final, and only.
Yeah.
Spoilers. And then in the other semi-final, it's another first, because it's the first Brazil-France World Cup matchup.
There will be, spoiler, loads of these.
Vava scores after 2 minutes. Then Fontaine scores on 9 minutes to equalise. That's his 9th goal of the World Cup. And then Didi puts Brazil 2-1 up at half-time. In the second half, Pele scores a hat-trick. No Brazilian has scored a World Cup hat-trick since.
That is insane.
You think in all those games, all those goals, someone would have. No Brazilian scored a hat-trick since Pele, 1958. France get a consolation at the end, but Brazil have won 5-2 and are through to their... Well, it's technically their first final.
Yes, because
technically.
Previous ones weren't proper finals for reasons of stupid formats. This is our first proper format, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. And the format, with a few tweaks, stays like this until 1974, when they start changing it again. The French defender Robert Jonquet is injured against Brazil and plays on with a broken fibula.
Goodness me, I've just... that took me a little second to remember which one the fibula is. That's the one in your leg that makes part of your shin. That is a difficult thing to play on with.
Yes, and apologies, I was supposed to do a warning, wasn't I, before mentioning any kind of injury.
It's just the big ones. I'll take a broken finger, but like if you're playing on with your shin popping out your leg.
At one point, he gives the ball away to Garincha, which is described as like throwing a grenade at a trampoline. I believe that quote comes from the author Chris Freddy. Let's give credit where it's due.
That is excellent.
So, third place playoff time. It's first France versus West Germany. There's going to be a load of them as well.
I mean, it's not the first time that they've played. It's just the first time that they've played
at a World Cup.
In football. Those pair have been at it for quite some time.
Fontaine scores in his 6th consecutive match, a record that has still never been beaten. It has been equalled, but never beaten. He needs 2 goals in this game to tie with Sandor Koksik's record from 1954. He gets 4.
Just Fontaine at the 58 World Cup was insane.
That brings his total to 13. Which is still the record.
Still a record, and I can't see it being beaten. You never know.
December 2022.
When Luke Shaw gets 14.
France wins 6-3. What a game. Raymond Copper scores his 3rd goal of the World Cup from the penalty spot. He would win the Ballon d'Or in 1958 and be the first footballer to receive the Légion d'honneur. Made all the more impressive by the fact that he lost a finger in a mining accident when he was 14.
I know that the past was different. Why are 14-year-olds down mines?
Losing fingers.
This is also, I know this is off topic, but when people say, oh, health and safety, I'm glad that health and safety occasionally goes a bit far if you're not having 14-year-olds losing fingers down mines.
The French squad also featured Roger Marsh, known as Le Sanglier des Ardennes, the Beast of Ardennes.
Oh.
Jean Vincent, who would manage Cameroon in 1982, and Roger Piantoni, who'd been brilliant in this World Cup. He missed the 3rd place playoff, though, because he was having his appendix out, and his nickname was Bout de Chou.
Bout de Chou?
Which, of course, means cabbage tip. I have no idea why.
This is the beautiful thing about this, is a crumb of context footballers from the past, and they're like, no! He was called Cabbage Tip. You'll never learn why.
Let's talk about the top scorer now. Just Louis Fontaine, which makes it sound like his name is Louis Fontaine, but it isn't. He is first of 2 African-born top scorers in a World Cup because he was born in Marrakesh. He is still alive at time of recording. He got 13 goals in the World Cup, which is still the record. He scored 30 in 21 games for France.
Wow.
Had to retire at age 28 due to injury. He'd go on to coach Morocco in the early 80s. On the all-time goals in a World Cup list, he's still at number 4, behind closer Ronaldo and Gerd Muller. But they all played way more games. He did it in 6 games.
Yeah. So all of his goals came at a single World Cup?
Yeah.
That is insane.
On to the final then. It's Brazil versus Sweden. Just picture that in your head. Paul, what instant similarities have you spotted between the two teams when you just think about Brazil playing Sweden?
They're both playing in yellow and blue.
That's right, yellow shirts, blue shorts. They arrange to have a draw. They get the blindfolded Italian boy back.
Come out your cupboard with Giuseppe.
We're going to have a draw to see who's going to be the home team and get to wear yellow and blue.
Surely you don't need that if one of the home teams is literally at their home.
Yeah, but it doesn't work like that in the World Cup. Because even though they are at home, it's still supposed to be kind of neutral. This is why England are wearing red in 1966.
Oh.
So they're going to have this draw. Brazil decide not to show up to the draw. So they don't do the draw.
Doing a Sweden.
Yeah. They don't do a draw and they just go to Sweden. All right, you're the home team. So Sweden are going to wear yellow and blue. What's the problem with that?
Is it that Brazil's away kit is blue and yellow?
No, Brazil's away kit at this point is all white.
Is it that the all-white kit is unlucky somehow?
That is right. It was the kit they wore in 1950 against Uruguay, so they don't want to wear it. They go out and buy 22 blue T-shirts and sew the badges on for the World Cup final. And that's why Brazil's away kit is now blue.
That is amazing. Also, that is so funny that the idea of just like one Swedish shopkeeper, just one day, in walks Pele and Garincha with a load of krona notes and goes, "Can we have 22 kits, please?" And they're all sat there doing their own sewing.
The game in its entirety is on YouTube if you want to watch it. It finishes, I'll just skip to the end, Brazil 5, Sweden 2. Sweden go 1-0 up after 4 minutes. Vava and Pele both score 2 each. Zagallo scores 1. It holds the record for the most goals in a World Cup final, and it shares the record for the biggest winning margin. Also, the youngest and oldest World Cup final goal scorers. Pele is 17 years, 249 days, and Niels Lidholm of Sweden is 35 years, 263 days. A lot of firsts in this final. We've got first, European World Cup not won by a European, and it is still the only time that's ever happened. It is the first final with teams from different continents playing each other. It is the first time a host loses a final, because 1950 doesn't count as a final, and it's still the only time that the host has lost the final. And first Englishman to manage a finalist, George Rayner.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, he's got Sweden all the way to the World Cup final. England have crashed out in the groups, persisting with Walter Winterbottom. Hey, should we ditch Walter Winterbottom and get this guy instead? Of course not.
That would be learning from our mistakes.
Despite losing the final, this is Sweden's best ever finish in a World Cup. They also had Gunnar Gren, nicknamed Il Professore, because he played for Milan, so they called him the Professor. He was the oldest player in this final. At 37, he was 20 years older than Pele. His international career was older than Pele. He'd played international football before Pele was born.
Trying to tell him that as Pele's scoring past him.
I remember when this was all fields, mate. And let's talk a little bit about Leonard Scotland, the Swedish left winger. Brilliant player, played for Inter Milan, had a number 7 hit in Sweden with Vi hänger med.
Vi hänger med, vi hänger med. Av någon anledning så gör vi faktiskt det.
Which in English means we are tagging along. The song was written and produced by Stig Anderson, who would later become the manager of ABBA.
Manager of ABBA, that's cool.
Leonard Scotland was an alcoholic and sometimes pill addict. He would hide whiskey in the changing room and by the corner flag.
Take the corner flag off and just have a little nip.
Yeah, so he could drink during games.
Our World 11 of great alcoholics put him in.
Yeah, put him in. He would later be a carpet salesman and a snow shoveler.
Because you can hide booze under both of those. He
died aged 45 in 1975. 2,000 people attended his funeral, where his coffin was full of booze.
It's what he would have wanted.
The Brazilian side are coached by Vincent Fiola, who looks like Alfred Hitchcock.
Good evening.
They were captained by Bellini. There's a statue of him outside the Maracanã of him holding the trophy. And he has a first.
Ooh.
When he gets the trophy, what is he the first person to do?
He's the first person to kiss it and hold it above his head.
I don't know about kissing it, but he's the first person to hold the trophy in the air. He did it so photographers could see it.
There are certain things that no one's ever done before, and then it becomes just so obvious. There's a load of Formula One from the 70s where the bit where they're spraying champagne on each other, and you go, someone had to do that for the first time. But like, just that, I imagine the work in progress thing of just somebody jamming a shot of absinthe down them and go, no, that's horrible. Why are you doing that? I thought about doing something with booze. Pouring a pint down their pants. No, this is terrible. Spraying champagne in the face. Yeah, you've got it. You've nailed it.
It's good that the people who came second and third in that first race where he did it were into it. Because that would have been awkward.
What's this? Oh, I've lost and you've covered me in sticky booze. Thanks.
There's Garincha, and we're going to talk more about Garincha in the next couple of episodes. And I will say that, though, apparently at the final whistle here, Brazil had beaten Sweden 5-2, he didn't realise that was the final.
We go again tomorrow.
He thought there was going to be like a second leg or something, or it was going to be like a league. So they had to explain to him, no, you've won. You've won the World Cup. Which is all very well, and that's pretty much the story of the 1958 World Cup. But of course, none of it actually happened.
Oh, because Paraguay were involved, and it went in the paranormal.
In 2002, a Swedish documentary called Conspiracy 58 was released that claims that the 1958 FIFA World Cup in Sweden did not really take place, but was faked and exists only as forged television and radio coverage in a conspiracy between American and Swedish television as part of the Cold War.
Yeah, because Americans famously love football.
The film says that Sweden did not have the economic or technical resources to actually host such a large event. The American motive for doing this was to test the effectiveness of televised propaganda. This was aired on Swedish television in 2002.
If you are going to make up a World Cup, you'd have one with mad things happening throughout. If you were going to make it up, there's a player and he came and he played 6 games, he scored 13 goals, and he never played again. We, the hosts, get to the final. Yeah, there's a 17-year-old kid no one's heard of, and he goes on to be one of the greatest of all time. I fully believe this. It sounds too good to be true. It therefore is. Wales and Northern Ireland qualified and got through to the quarters. Yeah.
There's analysis of TV recordings of the matches where houses can be seen in the background that never actually stood there. The film also analyses how the shadows of the players in the field were falling and were angled in a way that is not possible in Sweden given the position of the sun at the time. Basically, they couldn't find any evidence that the tournament actually happened. Lennart Johansson, who was UEFA president at the time, is in the documentary talking about it.
About how he faked it?
Yeah. Guess what happens at the end of the documentary?
Nothing, because it's clearly bollocks.
Yes, they come out and say, this is none of this is real. The World Cup happened, but they didn't say that before the documentary went out.
Oh, nice.
They were making basically a point about historical revisionism and conspiracy theories.
That's quite lovely, and I applaud them for it.
Yeah, it was to highlight the importance of source criticism, where you get your information from. So, well done, Swedish TV, for doing that.
But now I also don't believe it happened.
Oh, you're a true believer.
Last 2 hours of this was a waste of time.
Do your own research. Let's quickly then give our rankings for the Sweden World Cup 1958 and work out where it stands in our leaderboard. Currently topped by the 1950 World Cup in Brazil, which has 7.04. Hosts, what are you giving Sweden for hosting?
I like the pictures of the Swedish crowd.
Innovations, so we've got the format, which is
the good format.
They've still got the bloody stupid playoff thing.
The only controversy is of Wales qualifying despite not qualifying. Pele existing, quite shocking.
It's not shocking that Pele exists.
No, but like a 17-year-old coming and winning a World Cup basically by himself, that.
There was no real shocks in the knockouts, but in the groups, Northern Ireland qualifying over Czechoslovakia and Argentina, I think that's a shock.
I mean, the final sounds great.
Brazil-France semi-final was good. The third-place playoff was good.
It's the first third-place playoff that I've ever been interested in.
Goal of the tournament, it has to be Pele's goal in the final, where he sort of chips it over the man and then volleys it. Just Fontaine, 10.
No, he gets 13.
You're going to give him 13 out of 10. You can't give him 13.
He scored 13 goals in 6 games.
It's out of 10.
All 4 teams from the home nations get to go. A British manager takes the team to the World Cup final.
Entertainment value, I've got some stats here. 1958 World Cup had a 3.6 goals per game, which is the lowest of any World Cup so far, but no World Cup since has surpassed that. There were 2 0-0s, 4 1-0s.
And then all the rest was scored by just Fontaine in Brazil.
The thing that counts against this World Cup is sort of lack of shocks. and lack of sort of really close games, other than sort of Brazil-Wales. It was mostly won quite easily by the best team in all the knockouts. So that kind of counts against it. Well, I can reveal that our score for the 1958 World Cup in Sweden is 6.83, which
Where does
puts
that put it on the rankings?
It puts it in third place, behind Switzerland 1954, but ahead of 1930 Uruguay. So Brazil 1950 is still the best World Cup at this point.
And of course, when we do decide the actual World Cup of World Cups, it won't be decided on just points average, will it, James? We'll do some sort of mad system.
We're going to get a blindfolded Italian boy to draw it out of a hat. So that's 1958. A teaser for you to think about until we return. I mentioned that Just Fontaine is the first of 2 African-born Golden Boot winners. Who is the other one? I'll reveal the answer to that at the start of the next episode when it's getting chilly in here.
We're going to Chile in 1962.
There's going to be a urinating dog, too many Golden Boot winners, and the most stupid, appalling, disgusting and disgraceful exhibition of football possibly in the history of the game.
I look forward to it already.
This has been the World Cup of World Cups. I've been James Cook.
I've been Paul Savage.
Until next time, ta-ra.
Bye.
You have been listening to the World Cup of World Cups podcast with me, James Cook, and Paul Savage. You can find me on Twitter at James E. Cook, and Paul is at Comedy Savage. If you want to get in touch for any reason, you can at our email address, worldcupofworldcups@gmail.com, and if you want to support the show, you can go to ko-fi.com/worldcupofworldcups. Music you've heard in this podcast has been Hootsmon by Lord Rockingham, and this is Wir Hangen Med by Leonard Scotland. If you've been enjoying this nonsense, please rate and review on wherever you get your podcasts from. Thanks.